Yeah, we are live. Good. Hey, welcome to Block Talk's first uh, interview of this series with Manohar, who's the CEO of Unmarshal. I am Arvind, co-founder at Arcana Network, and we are a storage layer for Ethereum with a privacy stack for developers to build privacy-preserving apps with authentication, access control, key management, and storage. Hey, Manohar, welcome to Block Talk.
Yeah, hi Arvind. Thank you so much for inviting me. Hello everyone. I'm Manohar. I started and currently running Unmarshal, which is a multi-chain DeFi data network. It's a indexing protocol on like multiple chains. What we do is we kind of index the data from multiple blockchains. So all the data that you kind of put it on blockchain, maybe your transactions or DeFi transactions and others, NFTs and other stuff. Like we kind of index it and build data tools around it for the better retrieval of blockchain data. And it's awesome to be here, like talking about these things.
Yeah, and our goal with Block Talk was, to bridge this gap where there's a lot of content around crypto and trading or focused on developers, but very little on how to
Mhm.
build uh, projects and launch, right? So from a very venture building perspective, want to bring out the story so someone who's aspiring to build has information around key sectors and verticals within uh, crypto. So I wanted to start off with, why don't you give us a overview of what is DeFi?
Yeah, sure. Just before we start that, I just like remembered a meme I was looking at it. It was making fun of the documentation we have for Web3. It says like, "Hey, Web3 is open source and this and that," and the other guy asks, "Does it have documentation?" And the other person just like keeps on smiling. So it's just something I remembered. Yeah, coming back to your question, I think like it's more of a philosophical question asking what is DeFi than like a technical answer. But in kind of like put it in a simple sentence, DeFi is it stand for decentralized finance, but it just means that like the financial tools built on top of a blockchain. This is more of uh, a technical description we can give. But if you want to understand like what it actually means, it means about like having to uh, do your finance without having someone in between, so which are like a blatant reference to the banks in a traditional finance, right? Like the money you have, it's not in your control. The money you say you have in your bank, it's nowhere in the bank, it's not stored somewhere. It's kind of lent to somebody else, or it may be given as loan to somebody else and other stuff, right? So I think decentralized finance is more of having a control of your money and actually kind of having no intermediate or having no middleman in the process of money. It's like compared to traditional finance, it's more of like you will have like the ownership of your money. You know exactly where your money is, and you have the full responsibility of your money. And uh, and then also like the things you do, like it's based on the principles of trust and trustless services, where you verify certain things to do like your financial these things, right? Like maybe you are lending, or maybe you are borrowing from someone, or maybe you are staking. By staking, I mean like if you talk in the traditional financial terms, giving a security, like a deposit, right? So something like that. So all these things, like you have control over these things. And then it's more of, it gives the access for a lot of people who doesn't get access to these financial tools in the traditional market.
All right, so it's like an open source bank that anybody can build. Everything
Mhm,
is private. You don't need permission.
mhm.
Uh, it's decentralized. That there's no intermediaries who control.
Yeah, and then it's
So
actually, it comes with a lot of freedom for you as well, like who's like who's making these DeFi transactions and other stuff, right? So it's more about
Absolutely.
not having someone else to control of your money.
Yeah. So then what do we mean when we say DeFi infrastructure?
I think it is the infrastructure that kind of facilitates anything that the underlying framework or infrastructure that kind of facilitates this DeFi. I was just like looking at the block, like maybe if you kind of think about ATMs and like for a traditional finance, right? If you think about ATM or a branch, a mobile app, or maybe a data warehouse or kind of ledger accounting and risk and security, like these are the infrastructure components of a traditional finance, right? The similar things for DeFi, it's called like DeFi. And so, like it's not as physical as the traditional financing infrastructure, but here it's more like wallets, front ends like oracles, storage layers, nodes, etc. So it's more about like infrastructure that's required to facilitate DeFi.
Got it. So there's a primitive infrastructure that people build that is possible through smart contracts, and then but there is still other things that you need
Mm.
to facilitate, like exchanges and lending and borrowing, like
Yeah.
oracles that you mentioned.
Yeah, it's more like what's required for DeFi to happen, right? Like you want to make like you have to keep these like you want to look at your holdings, then you need wallet. And if you want to kind of swap your tokens, kind of like exchange your tokens, then there's exchange required. And if you want to kind of stay put up fixed deposit, then there is staking smart contracts required. And if you want to like look at all these data, there's indexers required. And if you want to kind of store the data in a decentralized way, then there are storage layers such as Arcana is required. So it's mostly kind of building blocks of DeFi.
Got it. So you spoke about what Unmarshal does. I'm curious, could you walk us through how exactly did you discover this problem that you wanted to solve?
Yeah, sure. So I think it's a funny story about how we got started with the Unmarshal. I was like kind of helping. I was in Singapore working for a company called Grab. I was handling their booking and allocation service, like handling huge amount of data and the services, like kind of 100% up services are not reliable services were not new to me. Like I was kind of like working in Grab in booking and allocation service, and one of my friends reached out to me, and like he was in DeFi space. He started in 2017, and he was kind of struggling with certain problems to get the data. It was mostly like a aggregation layer for all the wallets, right? Like let's say you have your money on Ethereum, you have your money on Binance Smart Chain, and he wanted to kind of bring that data, how much tokens you have, somebody has in a particular wallet, and he wanted to show those details in one place. So for that, he needed data from blockchain, which was very hard to get. Like there are a couple of providers who kind of give this data, but it was always hard to get. The only way for you to get this data is to index the complete blockchain. By indexing, I mean you kind of go to each block on the blockchain. There are 12 million blocks on Ethereum and close to 10 million blocks on Binance Smart Chain. Um so they like you kind of go to each block and see if a particular person, by person I mean a wallet address, the person is represented using a kind of hash string here. So if that wallet address has any transactions in that block or not. So it's a tedious process, and it requires huge amount of infrastructure to run the nodes and to run the indexing a database, etc. So it was kind of duplicated, and there was no one good solution, but everyone needed it. So that's where kind of Unmarshal started. The aim we sought out for Unmarshal is to get the data, like by data I mean financial information, right? So or get this data from multiple chains in a way it's useful for each of DeFi applications, like D apps to build. Because to be honest, the scale at which the cryptocurrency transactions are growing, the DeFi applications are growing, the infrastructure layer, it's still kind of a very in naive state. Like there are not of people who can handle the scale at which the industry is going growing. So I thought like probably we need someone like Unmarshal, where you can get data from any blockchain in a way people need it. So we serve data in multiple formats. You can we serve APIs, we give push notifications, we sometimes serve a simple CSV file as well. That's something Unmarshal does. So it's mostly because the things that we store on blockchain, it's a financial information, right? It's financial transactions. There's a lot of use cases out of a block, the data that's stored on blockchain, but there are no right tools to do it.
Yeah. So you discovered this because it was a problem that was close to you and people around you immediately faced. And I think that's one of the best ways to perhaps discover problems in DeFi is to get involved in the space so that you yourself know what are the bottlenecks and what are the missing pieces that you need, and perhaps build them out yourself.
Yeah, I
So
think
we have, yeah,
that's true. That's true.
yeah. And one key thing you mentioned was how expensive and intensive it is to run these infrastructure, right? So now, from an idea, how do you go to a product that uh, sort of materializes this, and what went into validating it? Because there's only so much you can validate through an idea that you position, right? How did that evolve from the idea to the product stage? If you could share some insights there.
Yeah, sure. I think whatever you told just now is like absolutely right. You have to be in here to understand what exactly it is. Like from outside, people just think like the DeFi is only Bitcoin, or maybe some people who understand now can understand Ethereum, Binance, or some people just think it's Bitcoin and Dogecoin. So, like for people to understand really what it is, at least for engineers, it's like very important to be in this space, like understand the applications, what they do, and understand the the philosophy, or understand the why, the reason of why and blockchains were came into existence, etc., right? So that's the ultimate requirement for someone to start building. To coming back to your question, I think for us, right, so we were in the industry, like I was working as a consultant for these DeFi applications at the back end level. So I kind of like had was in this industry for like a few months before I got the idea of Unmarshal. But for anyone to like the most important point is to get the idea, and from there like which kind of is required in this industry. And like validating is probably, if there are two ways, right? Like one, you kind of build something new that people don't understand, and kind of make them want it. Something like Apple or like those companies, right? Like other way is to kind of like be in this industry, understand what is required, and kind of start building it. Probably maybe project management sources like Jira or Atlassian, maybe these things, because people were using like different processes for it. It's maybe making it a better, or building a product that kind of suits for everyone, right? So these are the two ways you can identify a problem. But being DeFi, I think it's kind of, a lot of people are duplicating what's there in the traditional finance into the DeFi. I think there's nothing wrong in it. I think DeFi needs to be as stable and requires as many tools that are required for the traditional startup as well. So there's no harm in kind of doing these things, but implementation is the hard part here. So validating this idea, like one kind of sad thing about DeFi, at least the tools in DeFi, is that there's no clear adoption. Like people kind of like get the ideas and they start building it, but there's no valid, they don't really know whether people need it or not. So then you have to look at the demography of people coming into this industry, like who are investing and who are believing in DeFi, right? Like, and you have to tailor made your applications to suit them so that there's adoption. Kind of finding a way to validate these things are really important. Like unluckily for us, we belong to the second generation of application that we just mentioned. we were born out of a use case, and we also had few people who tried this in the industry, but like still we thought there's a space for someone else to fill this, because it's a huge I mean, like, it's already a huge industry, and there's so much of transaction going on and every day. But like there are a couple of major indexing protocols, so we know, and they were like, they made it really big, but like at the functional level we kind of saw that they also lack certain things which we can serve and like make it as big as them.
Got it. So when you had your first interaction with the customers, you sort of validated the product. At what point in the product's journey did you realize that now this is the position that the customers can integrate, right?
Yeah.
Because there's always this question about, how soon can you launch or when is it ready to launch?
Mhm.
How did you go about thinking this point? Because especially since it's data that users rely on.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. I have two things helping me here. Like, had two things helping me here. One, my kind of career, how I started my career. I started my career with a tech consulting startup called Maven Hype. The things we were consulting on were to build the MVP, like what exact the product will be called as minimal viable product. How fast we can go to market. So we were helping our clients to do all these things, but we never got hands to build our own product. But I think that experience really helped me at Unmarshal. And the second thing was, because like we were born out of the use case, right? We were born out of the existing project that we were trying to build. So we already had a product, like a customer, before even we thought it can become a product. So for Unmarshal, like, we kind of started building certain applications and integrated with one of our clients. Like it was Frontier, like we started building with them. So then, like, they were already product even before Unmarshal was envisioned, and we could think that this particular application can become product on its own. And later, because I started spending more time in the industry, I got introduced to more people, the people who are actually building DeFi application. I think India has one of the vibrant developer community, and like a lot of people are getting into building stuff. I'm not sure about the investments and other stuff, but like the building stuff, there are a lot of applications. And Matic, currently it's called Polygon, is a leader in this space. Like they've shown that, like, we can build like big products in this space. So a lot of people are taking inspiration from a lot of and even Frontier, like Ravindra Kumar, CEO of Frontier, was a good friend of us. And like because of his inspiration, like a lot of product projects started as well. So as and when we got introduced to more and more people, they said, hey, we also want something like this, because we are doing something on our own, because we didn't find any product that could serve our requirement. So then it kind of become a point where everyone needed this kind of project. But because I had the consulting experience, right, we just spoke to a lot of people, and we didn't build something out of the nowhere and then went for validation. We kind of collected the requirements, and we envisioned what could become Unmarshal. And that's where, like, kind of we started understanding the needs of people, and that's what I envisioned Unmarshal as what it is.
Right. So you found like an anchor customer, Frontier, and then while you built with them, you knew at what point it could be adopted, and then others inbound came to you and said, "We also need it."
Mhm.
You made an interesting point about uh, the customers telling you that they do it themselves. They tried a couple of other products that didn't like, and these are fairly large market cap products, right? Like
Yeah.
Chainlink and Dgraph. So how did you uh, realize to differentiate from them that that even such large projects were not offering what you were building?
Yeah, I think so. It's at like when you think about like these projects, right? Like there's Covalent, there's the graph that are working in indexing protocols layer, right? Uh, one thing is that there's nothing wrong with them, and then like we respect a lot of them, like who Graph has a very good reputation, and also the scale at which they are handling, and even Covalent, like we have a respect for them as well. It's not about like they don't have something, they can't do something. It's more, it can be about like they did not want to do certain things as well. So one thing like we understood was, both of them were like focusing at blockchain at a whole, that kind of, if you become too generic, you can only serve like, let's say, 60% of the people, right? Like because you can't satisfy 100% of the people. Like if you start building generic products, like let's say, if you build just a indexing, a single API that only serves purpose for like, let's say, 4 or 5 people, but not more than that. So that's where we kind of wanted to sit in, because it's not helping anyone 100%. It's not like, okay, they are happy with like for 50%, and remaining 50% they have to do it themselves. So that's where we wanted to come in and start. So we picked only DeFi specifically. So out of, I mean, like data is just like bits and hashes, right? Like you can make any sense of out of it. Like you have to kind of put it in a business context for it to have some meaning. If you look at blockchain response, it is just a hexadecimals and hashes. It doesn't tell you anything. If you put it in a particular context, it means something. If you put it in a DeFi specific context, then it means, oh, this transaction is person A sent $10 to person B. That's what has meaning, and that's what has value. But if you just say, hey, two address is XYZ, so sorry, I'm using XYZ, but it's mostly from 0 to E. So
Yeah.
E0 to F. So these strings, right, they don't have any meaning. So we wanted to sit in just DeFi space, concentrate on the DeFi space, and build the tools around it. Maybe your profit and loss engine. Like if somebody has tokens, like the cryptocurrencies, they want to know how much they gained or how much they lost at the dollar value. And we have token stores. It just give you details about how many tokens there is, and what's their kind of price trend, etc. And we have like APIs specifically for getting the balance of a particular wallet, how much cryptocurrency he has, and what's their dollar worth, etc. So we concentrated only on DeFi, that kind of like, while as others were not. So it gave us like a very a nice niche where there are no competition at all.
Interesting.
And apart from that, we also kind of added a lot of required features that were not available back then. Like most of the feature products, like the other competitors, were concentrating on Ethereum, whereas we concentrated on multiple chains, and we concentrated on serving data in every format like clients want, like whereas others had just APIs. So we wanted to give even CSV files if people wanted.
So you focus more on the developers who will be building and want to be developer friendly.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I think that's something that sort of transfers from building a regular startup. Right? This is the same principles also hold true here.
Yeah.
But what are the ways in which building this in blockchain is different from the point of selling to customers and raising money? Any broad things that you can point out that how it has been different in building this
Yeah,
particular
different
piece?
compared to traditional startup.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think I think I'm at better position to kind of help you, is because when I started my career, we started with a failed startup called Switch It. It was a fantasy based cricket application. Now a lot of people are killing it, like maybe
yeah,
MPL or Dream 11.
yeah.
These projects are actually hit like we envisioned it way back in 2013, 14. So like comparably, like I think DeFi space especially has a lot of new money, and people, it has like very limited people building it. So like people are like happy to give you a few hundreds of thousands, and like ask you to build based on your reputation and other stuff, right? I think raising funds for Unmarshal was like cakewalk for us, because we had the product, and we kind of we had the validated product. So raising money is kind of like comparably easy here, but only if you have like a working product here. So my suggestion to everyone who's coming and talking to me is just like get the idea and start building it. Like start probably just a proof of concept, right? Like just a few lines of code like which we can build over the weekend, and then like make sure it's working, make sure it's something people want, and then like it's very easy to raise funds here. You don't have to struggle like the movies and which Surya had acted recently. So it's very
Yeah.
specific to Indian or maybe South Indian community, but like yeah, you don't have to struggle as movies show here, and to build your startups.
Yeah, it's easy to raise for now at least.
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. I think like we Unmarshal was like kind of started in a good time, like
Yeah,
2021, first half of 2021. But I think like for builders, it's always going to be easy if you have a product that kind of validate. I personally feel that only close to 5 to 10% of actual like a good developer community is here, and like the people who have adopted into this. So there's a lot of as and more the minds come in, like the good minds come in, it's the adoption will be more, and the products who you want to build are more, and also I think it's a good time to come into this space.
fantastic. So, lastly, I have one question. You mentioned about the problems in indexing. What other opportunities do you see that exist in building, especially DeFi infrastructure, that is either lacking or not yet been solved?
No, I think generally, like as I told you earlier, right? So there are only probably like 5-10% of engineering minds have come into this, and like the great product minds have come into this, and there, and also even at the outside, like the DeFi who people who trust and believe in DeFi also less, right? Like probably like if you look at the stock market and the traditional DeFi market, it's probably not even close to 10%, like not even 5%. So as and when more people start adopting into DeFi, there'll be like huge challenges to kind of support the existing infrastructure. We can start with the from the node level itself. Binance Smart Chain has seen such a high scale that like we kind of like struggle to keep the nodes in sync. Like we currently Unmarshal runs nodes on Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Matic. So we struggle to keep it in sync. But if you look at Ethereum, it's kind of slow because there are only limited number of blocks you can mint. So there are these limitations. So there are opportunities there as well, and also kind of look at it like. I generally feel the array of financial tools that are available in a traditional market, it still lacks in DeFi. Now we can they're like probably like farming and staking and other stuff, but like you can do a lot more with the money and the currencies you hold, right? So there are opportunities there as well. But to help this growth sustain, right, like to have kind of like cope up with this scope, I think there needs to be a lot of infrastructure projects all the way from like indexing protocols, maybe like the storage networks, etc. I mean, like there are a lot of people who are trying to scale up, but there are still opportunities at the other layers.
Fantastic. So we'll move on to the questions now. We have one question from Ratan. I'll bring that up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he asks,
Yeah, right now DeFi is running into a wall that it could never avoid. Scalability. How does Unmarshal look into? Yeah, exactly. I think I
yeah,
just
this
like kind of
is,
read his
yeah,
mind before I read this question. So we are DeFi is actually like its adoption is still low, but the scale at which we are growing is kind of really hard to maintain and hard to support. For especially for infrastructure projects for like us, right? So we currently run nodes on three different blockchains. Like we support like close to seven, but we use third party nodes. But we run three blockchain nodes which are hard to maintain, and supporting the scale at which this DeFi is growing like will be really hard. The way Unmarshal, we kind of envisioned this from the day we started, because we kind of knew how many startups are coming around and how many people are coming into DeFi space, right? So while kind of creating our Unmarshal's vision, thought of Unmarshal as a decentralized a network. It's not just one person running the company. So we even the way we are building our products also, it's in a way where things can be duplicated and like vertically and horizontally as well, like divided vertically and horizontally as well. So Unmarshal would be a network of indexers where multiple people can come in and run the indexing nodes, and at the other side as well, it will be a marketplace for people to build DeFi application, like DeFi data tools as well, right? So the things we are building currently, maybe a profit and loss engine, like each person can run multiple instances of profit and loss engine at different blockchains. Like one person is running for Ethereum, just one service, and the other person is running token store and Matic, etc. So these things can be duplicated and run by a group of like a group of people who kind of become unmarshal network. So we kind of thought of this project early on, the problem early on, and that's why we envisioned unmarshal as a decentralized network.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Manohar. It's been a great session. And is there any places where people who are watching this can reach out to you with their questions on building in DeFi infrastructure and need perhaps any support?
Yeah, sure. I think I'm always available on like our Telegram channel. I mean, like not always, but like I can answer questions on Telegram channel, and I can probably leave my Twitter ID as well. It's Manohar Shetty. So people can find me through Unmarshal Twitter handle as well. So I can like always help people there. But my general suggestion for everyone, like especially engineering community, is to just like, I think like it's a new wave of innovation, and it's the right time to get started. And I think like you don't have to make, as I think personally I didn't have to make the sacrifices of building a startup, because a lot of things, if you are well connected, or even if you kind of like wanted, the people here are so welcoming, the introductions are made easily, and people who are actually like the path leaders in DeFi space in India are like very welcoming. Maybe Sandeep of Matic Network, Ravindra Kumar of Frontier, and Sridhar of Arts. These are the people who kind of are very welcoming of new people coming into industry. And I've seen like them guiding at least like 20, 30 different products to get shaped up. So a lot of good folks here. So I think it's a right time to start building, and you don't have to make the sacrifices that you generally need to make to build a startup.
Yeah, fantastic note to end this conversation on. Thank you, Manohar.
Yeah, thank you, Arvind. I think thanks for starting something like this. I think hope you kind of get like a lot of new people who want to build like on DeFi through this medium.
Yeah,
And then all the best.
absolutely.
Thanks. And it feels
Yeah,
nice to
see
be
you.
the first guest of your program.
Yeah, see you. Take care.